Hi there! This is the first video that I've actually done so far in 2013. Welcome to the future! While I've talked for a long time now here on this channel about how if you're not satisfied with the candidates, you should run for office yourself. Well, I moved from talk to action last year while I ran for office myself for state senate here in Portland, Maine, as a member of the Green Party. I did this not only to run for office, to build the party, but also to serve as an example, to show that yes, it can be done, even if you're a low-income person like myself. I think the whole experience was very enlightening. I'm really glad that I did it, and I'll be sharing my insights in the weeks to come. And while I'm glad to have run for office for the experience, I'll also have you know that running for office isn't without its consequences. I realize now, much more viscerally, that the reasons that we don't see more working class and low income people in government are part of the whole process of running for office. First off, to be able to run a successful campaign for office from beginning to end, you have to take off about 8 months of work out of your schedule, which is a good chunk of the year. Very few people have that luxury to be able to take 8 months off from work, which is why we see a lot of business leaders in government. They don't have to worry about slipping behind on their rent from month to month, and they can rely on passive income that comes from the labor of their employees running their business for them while they're taking time off. Either that, or like I did, you have to work 50 hours plus a week for, a good 2 years prior to running for office and live like a monk so that you can squirrel away enough in savings that you can actually cover the cost of living for those 8 months. Also, another consequence is now, after having run for office for 8 months, coming back and trying to look for work, I have a gap of 8 months on my resume, and saying that I ran for office as a member of the Green Party, listing that on a resume, maybe not exactly what employers are looking for. But this systemic inequity is not a reason to just give up and to become apathetic, to not participate. If anything, it's a reason to work harder, to work in solidarity with fellow low-income and working-class people to build a political resistance movement. Personally, my favorite time for political organizing is not during election seasons anyway. It's in the in-between periods. Especially in presidential years, the way that the media trumps up the importance of the election, people end up rationalizing a lot of really stupid arguments. They end up acting very stupid and very afraid during the hype of the election season. They fall prey to illogical thinking patterns, exhibiting a sort of partisan Stockholm syndrome. No matter how much they're abused by the leadership in either of those parties, they continue to go to the ballot box and vote for their abusers. Or they get fed up with both the parties, and not knowing that there are any alternatives, they choose not to vote. As a member of the Green Party, that second group of people are my constituent base, which is fine by me because they already make up 60% of the population. Another reason that the in-between times are my favorite times for political organizing is people aren't as emotionally wrapped up in the election anymore, and they're able to have rational discussions a little more readily. Now, in the past year of running for office, I encountered one symptom of this partisan Stockholm syndrome over and over. This idea that Greens steal votes, which is just categorically false. Greens do not steal votes, we earn votes. In my race in particular, this line of thinking was especially absurd. I was the only opposition candidate as a Green. There was a Democrat and myself. That's right, as a Green, I was not a third party, I was the second party. And yet, I would still get the line that, as a Green, I was stealing votes from the Democrats. Which, again, I was the only opposition. That line of thinking is completely absurd. However, even in three-way races, Greens don't steal votes, they earn them. Using my race as an example, I know of at least 600 voters who would not have voted otherwise, that I registered to vote through my campaign. There were thousands of people that I talked to at the doors who were either registered to vote and planned not to vote, or who were not registered to vote and didn't plan to vote, who, through my talking to them at the door and offering them a real alternative, decided to either vote for me or to register to vote with the Green Party and vote for me. One story that I love to tell is of a woman who was in her mid-60s, and she had never registered to vote in her life. She understood that as a low-income person and the mother of members of our U.S. military, that the government doesn't care about poor people. Our federal government is all too willing to just take our bodies and run them through the meat grinder of the military-industrial complex for the profits of huge businesses, that our government is all too willing to give tax breaks and giveaways to powerful corporations, but continually gives the shaft to low-income people and working-class people. The greatest thing about being a Green is talking to folks like her. I don't need to explain my platform. She understands the reasons behind the planks in my platform because she's lived them. I didn't have to do any conversion. She was already with me before I even got to the door. The only thing that I had to do was let her know that the Green Party exists and stands for what it stands for. After chatting with her for about 30 minutes, this woman, who is in her mid-60s, who had never registered to vote in her life, registered as a member of the Green Party. The fact is, nearly 60% of the population regularly chooses not to vote. And having spoken with these people who choose not to vote on their doorsteps, I can say with confidence that the reasons why they choose not to vote are justified. They see that both parties are liars, who actively work to screw over working and poor people for the profits of big business, which might be related to that thing that I mentioned in the beginning of the video about how hard it is for working people to run for office and win. And I can say with confidence that most of my votes came from people who did not realize that they identified with the Green Party until I came to their doorstep. Most of my votes came from people who were planning on staying home, but then I showed up and let them know about the Green Party. In my canvassing, I didn't even bother wasting time trying to convert Democrats, and these are mostly the people who are saying that I'm stealing votes. It became pretty clear throughout the course of the campaign that when Democrats say that I'm stealing votes, what they really mean is that I am convincing people who were not going to vote otherwise to vote for something that wasn't a Democrat. And these people who were not going to vote anyways, if I had come to their door and told them I was a Democrat, they wouldn't have voted. They still would not have voted. I earned votes from independents and from non-voters, from unregistered voters, people who had not registered to vote yet. And I ended up earning nearly 30% of the vote as a first-time candidate against a two-term incumbent, which, while 30% doesn't sound like that much, as a first-time candidate against a two-term incumbent, that's actually huge. And I did that by earning those votes, by going to disenfranchised communities. And it's my hope that through keeping that base active, I can convince these unlikely voters to become unlikely candidates for office. We need to take the reins of government out of the hands of business and put it back in the hands of the people. And I believe that the Green Party, because it has no financial ties to any corporations or any private interests, that the Green Party is the vehicle for doing so. You're watching The Punk Patriot, to life, liberty, and pursuit of a less fucked up government.
Killing you!
Little housekeeping, if you ordered a t-shirt from me in the past year, you may have noticed that it took a lot longer than it probably should have. That was because I had my silk screening shop split between two different locations, one of which I did not have regular access to, and it made it exceedingly difficult to get anything done. But now all my stuff is in one place that I have regular access to pretty much 24 hours a day. So I'll be able to fill orders the same day if need be. So yeah, please go over and check out punkpatriot.etsy.com, check out the shirt designs that I have there. And hopefully you'll like some of them and pick one up. Alright, peace. Oh, also, if you like this video, please donate what you think it was worth down in the description below. Also, a huge thank you to my sustaining subscribers. You guys you kick ass.